Okay, great to have a full house here. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
You've got pretty much the dream CV, making me feel very inadequate up here on the stage. Whoops, can't even hold my phone. PayPal, SpaceX, a bit of Tesla thrown in, now your own company. Branching out after that close collaboration and such a big name like Elon Musk, was that the classic case of you wanting to break out and do your own thing, or was it a bit more driven by the product and the passion around security?
Oh, I guess it was a little bit of both. The inspirational moment was at the 10-year reunion party for PayPal. I was just at a casual event, and I got to meet all of my friends from the early time starting PayPal with Elon. And these guys had all gone on to create great companies. And it was a moment where I had been at SpaceX for 10 years, and I thought, wow, you know, if Jeremy and Chad and Steve, they can go off and create these great companies, that looks really fun, they're having a great time, they're successful, why shouldn't I go after something like this? So I started thinking about, you know, what I might do, and you know, that turned into the startup that I founded in 2012.
And now, one of the best things about a startup is it teaches you to fail.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to go through 15 years of that high-end, intense life with Elon Musk, there's a lot of successes, but there must be failures along the way as well. I mean, you call yourself battle-tested on Twitter.
Right.
So what was your toughest battle, and how did you win?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There were a lot of failures along the way. Some of them, a lot of people in the audience probably saw some of the SpaceX failures. They were quite, you know, explosive. But I indeed had quite a few of my own going through that process and going through that career. I've experienced many failures. I often told people, and particularly my employees, that the culture at SpaceX allowed for failure sometimes. You know, for me, it was like maybe once a year I could have like a big oops.
What did Elon do when there was a failure?
It was always a big deal, right? Like a really big deal, like a job-threatening thing. But as long as the frequency, the cadence of the failures was sort of, you know, low, at least the major ones. But yeah, you know, I did manage to overcome a lot of the challenges, and I'd often seek my own sort of set of challenges. I'd see, you know, problems or things that could be done better, and often, I guess just that environment of SpaceX being so inventive, I would just kind of create it myself, and it would be challenging and difficult, and we'd figure it out.
Yep. Well, it looks like you hit the nail on the head in terms of what you went on to do. So it's a security firm that you're running now. And we are obviously in an era where people's information is constantly under threat, whether that's us as individuals and the surveillance that we might be subject to, whether it's state actors trying to hack into systems, disrupt elections, interfere in democracy. Where are you placed right now in that whole debate? Are you able to offer products to us as all of us sitting around in this room, or you're still focused on the institutional level people?
Yeah, so that's the goal, right? The way my startup happened was I was solving a problem for the employees of SpaceX initially. It was just, how can I let employees be safe online? Because I realized that people can be fooled. You know, someone can send you an email that looks legit enough that you'll click the link, and this is still happening. But when I was looking at this problem, it was 9 years ago now, I think, when I first started looking at it. I wanted to solve that for them in an elegant way. And just for the employees, can you guys go to any website and be completely immune and, you know, thank your IT department for protecting you and not really worry about it? Well, it turns out that solution is valuable to more people than just SpaceX employees, right? And so that's kind of where the idea to found that company came from. And yeah, that today is only offered to companies. It's still an emerging technology. In fact, I think only last year did it actually kind of get coined a name, web browser isolation. But yeah, I think it's headed for the consumer eventually for sure.
Yep. And browser isolation, is that kind of it's like your new take on the old air-gap system where you'd have these two computers in parallel but not connected to each other, but you're basically doing that with browsers inside one device.
Yeah, the most secure thing you can possibly do with a web browser is not use it. So I attempt to get you as close as you can be to not using it, but still get to experience the web.
Excellent, excellent. Now, don't forget, guys, to send in your questions. We've got the Slido system here, and as soon as we get some questions there, I'll be happy to throw them at Mr. Spikes. Now, we're also in a situation where tech and politics are getting more and more intermingled. So I don't mean to put you on the spot and turn you into a presidential candidate or anything like that, but I'm asking everyone here this week how they're handling that fact that everything is just merging into one now, and you can't really pretend, oh, I'm just a geek in a corner anymore. And in a way, we can't even say that this is a tech conference. I got a really good tip last night at the bar. It was like, no, this is really a founders network. It's not about the coding and the engineering, although that's a part of it. It's about the mindset of how you are going to run a company. Yeah. So in this space where everything is mixed up and gray, like how do you handle all of those difficult navigations? Well,
I mean, the lesson I've learned is that you can't put the burden on the people. We have to be able to rely on the founders of startups, the innovators, and even the big giant companies that are providing the technology we use to solve these problems for us. I don't think you can just put people in cybersecurity awareness trainings all day and think that's going to make the problem go away, right? So yeah, I love inspiring innovation. It's one of the reasons I'm here today, is to help any startups in the room just be inspired, be ready to fail fast and fail often and see the success come out of it. And from that will come the solutions that we need to solve this problem we're discussing. Right?
Now, we've got some questions coming up. So Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous would like to know what lesson you learned from Elon Musk. I'm sorry, what lesson you learned from Elon Musk do you not incorporate in your own company? So what was his idea that you just went, no, I can't go there, you're wrong?
Oh, wow. Is there one? I'm not sure there is.
There's got to be one.
There were a lot of aha moments, right, where I think I had disagreed, and then when I started my own company, for example, he's very frugal, and I think appropriately so. But when I was working for him, I'm like, dude, you got $1 billion. How can you not spend this money on this stuff? And I didn't get it. But after starting my own business, I had some aha moments where I realized he was right. I don't know that I had any where I realized he was wrong.
It's a lot easier to spend other people's money, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question coming up. SpaceX is an amazing company, so that's glad we learned that today. Yeah. Could you elaborate a bit more on why you left them?
Yeah, Judith. I couldn't start my own business and stay there, right? So yeah, that's why.
Okay. You could have got a sub-branch. You could have been you could have been the Mars mission or something like that.
I mean, I was there for 10 years, and that's kind of a long time. I'd really achieved everything that I'd set out to achieve, and I put some pretty big challenges for myself. One kind of key factor to consider is I was the third person in the company. Yep. So I got to create the technology and the infrastructure from the ground up. And after 10 years of doing that, it was sort of, I like to think of it as a masterpiece.
Yeah, like a one-man NASA, basically.
It was pretty awesome, yeah. But so after that amount of time, it was I could learn more from doing my own business.
Yeah. And who did you look up to during that period? I mean, were you going back to those NASA engineers and those people that got Americans on the moon back in the day? Or is it a whole nother scale of ambition and aspiration that you had?
The colleagues were all amazing. Dozens of people at SpaceX that I'd say I looked up to. From some of the different disciplines where I was learning from them, I realized these are the foremost authorities in the world for these things. And so, yeah, I could find lots of inspiration there.
Yep. And I was reading an article, I think, 2 days ago, and it was very scary. It was about climate change. So hope there are no climate change skeptics in the audience, or deniers. You can be skeptical. Everyone's allowed to be skeptical. But it just rammed home a lot of the potential dangers in coming decades and centuries. And it just went through a catalog of people who believe that, we really have to find a way to live on other planets, because it's just not going to work out here. Is that the sort of thing that came up in brainstorms at SpaceX? Is that the sort of thing that kept you guys up at night when you were inventing those new technologies and vehicles?
No, I don't think climate change came up all the time. And Yeah, no, I don't think it did actually. It certainly was an inspiration for getting off the planet.
Yeah.
But the SpaceX goal was not just about getting off the planet. It was also about reducing the cost of access to space. Was sort of one of the initial goals.
It's good to come back.
And yeah, I mean, engineering challenges.
Two-way tickets are a lot more effective.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say climate change was a big deal when I was there. I think it's probably a bigger deal now because of the problem getting worse.
Yeah. Now, we got a question from Kate. She wants to know, what is your preferred device and browser for being online? Aside from your own products, of course.
Well,
us mortals, what should we be using?
Device, I don't really have a preferred because I use all the types of devices pretty regularly for different things. Right tool for the job. But specifically for browsing, I spend most of my time on my Mac laptop running Chrome. But yeah, I mean, I have to find it's very easy to use and pretty good on security.
Good stuff. Now, another very popular question from another anonymous individual is whether you encountered any interesting cyber incidents at SpaceX, i.e. state actors trying to steal your shit.
Yeah, actually, not uncommon. We had the FBI visit us one time, and they thought that had happened, and we had to sort of show them our evidence why we thought that though it had been attempted, it had not succeeded. That was important to them. But yeah, that was kind of one of the biggest challenges of keeping that network secure, was knowing what was going on the network. I think it's easy to just assume that bad things are happening, but something very important to me throughout my entire career was that when the bad things happened, I needed to be able to explain why, how it happened, and how I was going to prevent it. And when it comes to cybersecurity, that's pretty hard to do, especially with the prevalence of encrypted protocols now. Everything's encrypted on the network. So for a network to be able to see what's going on, sometimes underneath that encryption, it's very difficult and super important. So that was one of the biggest challenges. But yeah, we actually did a pretty good job of knowing every time something unusual, abnormal, or malicious was happening, or potentially malicious. We were pretty clean, though. I never really had sort of a malicious threat happening inside the sensitive parts of the network while I was there.
And what is the vibe like? I imagine when those attacks can happen so rapidly from so many different angles, and when there's literally kind of millions and millions and possibly lives at stake if something goes wrong when you're talking about these vehicles. Can you ever really switch off, or you're just permanently like having those phantom phone calls and alerts and wondering where the next problem's coming from?
I think that initially it was very much like sport. It was fun. Let's just keep the hackers out of here and make fun of them. But when the rockets started launching successfully, my attitude changed a little bit. And that was one of the reasons in 2008 that I started looking at the problem more seriously. But when human lives were really on the balance, I think the whole attitude did shift a little bit to where it was like, okay, let's really take this seriously.
Now, we've got another planetary question from Anthony. He wants to know if we're going to Mars by 2020. And if not 2020, give us a number. When are we going to be there?
Well, the window of opportunity is not very common, or not very often. I don't recall if 2020 is one of those windows. But I do know that the first window of opportunity is very hard to hit. Can we hit it? Yes. I don't think it's likely.
And is that literally a physical, geological thing?
Right.
That is.
Yeah, the orbits of the planets, they're only near each other every several years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think it's likely, but I do think it's possible.
Okay. And if not, then it's
the next
fairly
one.
likely the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, you can't escape Mr. Musk, unfortunately.
Sure.
We've got immersivevr.com, 19 supporters for what is Elon Musk like to work with.
He's awesome. Yeah, I loved working with him. That's why I was there 16 years.
Yeah. He doesn't steal your cup, like he leaves your coffee mug.
We got along well, so I might be an anomaly, right?
So he goes around stealing everyone else's cup.
I think so, yeah. I didn't steal mine.
You've heard it here first, folks.
I think I'm the only employee of his that went to the next company repeatedly, like maybe even ever. I know that when he went,
It's not necessarily a good sign. He's scaring them off. Like,
yeah, maybe.
It's like the bits of the rocket. He's just shedding people as he goes on to the next company.
But yeah, we get along really well. I mean, I loved working with him. The expectation was very, very difficult, but achievable. And so it was challenging, and so I learned a lot, and it was a good experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
And do you go back to those guys that what you were at PayPal with, and then SpaceX with, and throw ideas around and catch up over beers, or are you now just out there on your own?
No, we're a family, all the time.
Cool, excellent. These questions keep coming, so we got to keep asking them. Thomas wants to know, is it possible to build a backdoor-free security solution in the US today? Phil Zimmerman moved to Switzerland with his company ...
You know, there's no such thing as 100% anything in cybersecurity. There's always the human element to sort of throw a wrench in the works. So, you know, while the technology might not have a backdoor, one of its supporting technologies might. One of the users using it might create one. So that's a difficult thing to say absolutely no to. A really good example of this is some of the underlying or underpinning technologies that we've been using for decades. You know, you'll go 10 years and then find a new vulnerability in something like the Unix shell or the, you know, even the antivirus programs we've been using and relying on for years. They'll come up with, oh, we've had this backdoor in here for years that we didn't know about, you know. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I think probably no is the answer to that.
Okie doke. Now we're getting all philosophical. Do you believe in singularity?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. It's given me a lot of time to prepare for the next question. All right.
I mean, I think that's
you got to go for longer there.
Not only is, I mean, that's imminent. We could talk about that for a second. I mean,
let's do it.
That could happen really soon. And if we, I think
And that's a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a better question. Yeah, right?
What's the better answer?
I think it depends on whether the singularity views its human hosts as good or bad. So as long as we can make sure that we are viewed as good.
It's a big if. I interviewed the head of the BSA, the software alliance of companies, a couple of weeks back. And I was like, are we going to become slaves to the robots? Like, tell me yes or no. She was like, no, it's not possible. Humans would never be that stupid. We're definitely going to stop it before it gets that far. And I was a bit like, I'm not sure I'm buying that answer. We might need a few more protections along the way.
If the computer learns to hack, then problems, right?
Yeah, there are. We're going to find some back doors.
Yeah.
You're not going to hide them then. All right, now we've got another Cold War space race question. So Cold War era, it was nation-to-nation battles. Are we now in corporation versus corporation battles?
Yeah, some of the corporations are more powerful and wealthy than some of the nations, right?
Yeah. And you're the US, or SpaceX was the US in that analogy. Who are some of the Chinas and the Russias and I guess the EU has a space agency?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know that it's fair to really correlate a corporation to a nation state. They're certainly similar in size and power and what they can do, but their incentives are totally different.
Yeah.
Corporations usually are kind of serving their own growth in terms of financial gain. I don't think most nation states are doing that. I mean, there's certainly evidence some of them do, but they're definitely different beasts.
And I think you can enlist people for different reasons. I mean, when you're talking about race to the moon sort of stuff, you can just throw everything at it as a country, and people might do it for patriotism. You've got to put down the big bucks if you want it to happen at the corporation level.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the amount of funds available to a government are staggering, but they're not really incentivized to spend less as much as a corporation is. So the corporation's far more frugal and able to do it for a lot less money. And that's kind of what you're seeing with SpaceX related to the nation-state entities doing space travel. Maybe
if we bring it back to something a little bit local, or to all of you guys in the room here, we were just chatting beforehand when we went on stage and saying what a different vibe it is at this conference compared to a lot of other tech-related events.
The vibe
Yeah.
of this conference?
The people, the vibe, everything there. Tell us a bit more about like what attracted you to come here and spend some time in Berlin and at this conference, and and what are you thinking about the tech scene in Europe and what role it plays as you're building your company?
Cool. Well, I'm an evangelist of emerging tech, and I think for me it's sort of tech first, business second in a lot of ways, and I think that this conference kind of embodies that too. It's like we're more interested here in developing cool stuff, and that's sort of the first message we're talking about. And it's not people in suits talking about how they're going to make money with the tech. The money is sort of the necessary evil. The tech is really the point. I've maybe because of attending Burning Man for 16 years, I love the cutting edge of tech and seeing the artistry that happens from it. And some of the friends that I've met over the years have also a similar mindset, introduced me to this conference and told me about it. So similar mindset and kind of great vibe for that.
Yeah, and I know you're a bit jet lagged. You just flew in, but did you see any cool stuff so far today, or are you fresh off the plane and onto the stage?
You mean at the conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it was very interesting. I particularly liked the Mind Tug of War. I think I have to go do it later. I haven't tried it yet.
Hands up, who did it? Who's done the Mind Tug of War? Okay, we've got a very elite minority in the room who's tried that. So the other 97%, you've got homework to do when we get off stage.
I'm convinced there's got to be a trick, some way to hack it.
Okay, let's take some more of these questions. I think I've been mean to these 15 people that upvoted Fanny's question. She wants to know, do you believe in Jeff Bezos' statement that space is the new internet? If yes, why?
I mean, literally, we could have internet access points in space pretty soon. But is space the new internet?
I could do with some more down here. I was on Edge Network half the time getting here today.
I guess they're talking about the internet being this explosive growth thing, and that space could have explosive growth. I hope that's going to happen, because that's why SpaceX exists, to allow sort of more of the common people to be able to access space. And that's happening. So, it's going to experience explosive growth. But the internet is, that's a whole different thing. It connected people, which I find to be incredibly amazing. What it's done for mankind is incredible. Space access will be interesting, and it'll do some neat things, but I don't think it holds a candle to the internet.
You can't scale it so quickly. Not in the way that we've been able to get internet going.
Yeah.
Now, a very special question has come in from Mr. Elon M. I don't know if that's the real Mr. Elon M, but let's hope he is out there watching us somehow. And it's a very, very tough one. I'm glad I'm not answering this. What human interactions are possible in space/Mars that aren't possible on Earth?
Well, in space you have zero-G things, right?
Yeah.
Like I've never.
But that makes some things harder too.
Holding another human in zero-G might be interesting.
Yeah.
Or in low gravity.
Dangerous.
Yeah. You could spit at someone from like a long ways away, and those are the kind of human interactions that are different.
Yeah. The fluids are the tough part, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. That's probably. I don't know.
Cool. Okay, so we've done Mars. Oh no, how do you envisage living on? Come on, guys!
You can't make
this
this
poor
up.
guy, he's got a new company now. We got to move on from SpaceX. So our last Mars question: how do you envision living on Mars will be? Have you bought your ticket? Is there like an employee discount? Are you like number 3?
I do not want to go.
No, you do not want to go.
No, I think it'll be.
Good thing you're not working for them anymore. That's not a good sales pitch.
I think that Mars might become hospitable eventually. But the pioneers who are the first to go there, I think, are in for a rough ride and possibly a one-way trip and a pretty uncomfortable existence. However, they're brave pioneers, and we should applaud that.
Yeah. You're going to use second mover advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe third.